Dan, if you could, well, first of all, welcome. I think the first question that I would like to ask you would be, how did you hear about the industry?
I heard about the industry back in 2000 and I think it was 2006. I was living in Canada at the time, and someone who I worked with had a friend who lived in the Caribbean. Her father was Canadian, her mom was Dutch, and she had spent some time back and forth in Canada. And so that's how my friend met her. And we were just sitting around one day talking, and I was talking about how, I wanted to do something different. I had gone to school to study to become a firefighter, and getting into the fire department is very difficult. One, it's very expensive. And then two, you've got thousands of people going for a couple dozen jobs, and they only hire maybe like once a year, once every couple of years. So it's really hard to get into. So she had told me that I should reach out to her friend, which I did. I just shot her a quick little message over Facebook. I had no idea that the audio industry even existed or what it was all about. And then she gave me a ton of information, like pretty much could have answered every question that I could have thought of. What courses I needed to get started, crew houses to stay at in St. Martin, how much things would cost, the different boats that are out there, the different types of programs, different types of job descriptions, things like that. And to be honest, it was one of those things that it didn't sound real, or it sounded too good to be true. So I didn't really look into it any further. And then about 6 weeks after that, I decided to do a little bit more research and found out that, yeah, actually this is a thing. And remember, like at the time then, like there were no real big social media presence. So trying to find information on yachting was really difficult. And then I just went for it. I jumped in with both feet. I sold a bunch of possessions. I saved up enough money to pretty much last me 2 weeks in a crew house, do my STCW, and hopefully find a job straight away.
That's awesome.
And I flew down to St. Martin on a open-end ticket. So I flew down and tried to see if I could make it work.
So I met you 8 years ago, roughly. What point were you at with your yachting career back then? Was it the beginning?
It was on Kaiser, right? Yeah. So at that point there, I was just starting to think about what I needed to do to get my officer of the watch. I was starting to work on things like my training record book and do some pre-study into some of the courses or the modules that are required before you can take that exam. So that was at the point that I was at then. And actually right after Kaiser, I flew to South Africa and did all my courses.
Brilliant. So this was, I guess, in the pipeline. It sounds like it was something that was in the pipeline for you to progress upwards to a more senior role. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So to help the other crew out there who are looking for work, what steps did you take in order to land your first position on a boat?
I networked a lot. Now I was in St. Martin. Obviously, it's quite small, and I had a good core of people who helped when I first transitioned over there. They introduced me to a lot of people. I picked up anything that I could do, even if it was only 2 hours worth of work. I would do it, and then just kept putting my name out there, being like, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this, and it was just one of those things where things kind of the stars lined up. I was down to I think my last $12, and I was sitting on the beach, and I was being like, all right, I'm gonna have to cash in this return ticket tomorrow and fly home. Just didn't work out. Oh well, I got a couple of fun weeks and a story to tell in the Caribbean. And while I was sitting on the beach, my phone rang, and there was this guy who had gotten my number through one of my mutual friends, asking if I'd be interested in day work the next day. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, can you pay me at the end of the day instead of the end of the week, because I've got no money left? And they're like, yeah, that's no problem. So that led into, it wasn't long. It was 5 days of day work. And while I was day working on that boat, the boat next door, who I also had become friends with the crew, had told me that they wanted to do a crew crew outing on the Saturday, and had asked if I could cover watch that day so the whole crew could go.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yeah, absolutely. And while they were out, a boat called Starship had pulled into St. Martin that day, had dropped off charter, and they had also gone out for a crew day. Well, the crew of that boat had met the crew of the boat that I was day working for, and they had told them, they're like, hey, we have this guy on our boat who's doing watch for us. He's looking for a deckhand. And Starship had just happened to fire their deckhand after that trip. So they're like, yeah, tell them to come on by on Monday. We're taking the Sunday off. And then that was it. I showed up on the dock Monday morning. They were looking for somebody with a bit more experience because they had a big tender that they towed. But they had the St. Martin Boat Show was coming up. So they're like, we could use you to help get the boat ready for the show. And then during the show, they booked a charter. So it was like, okay, can you help us get ready for the charter? And then it was, can you help us during the charter? And then while we were on that charter, they booked another one with a 24-hour turnaround. So they were like, can you help us for the second charter? And then about 2 or 3 days into that second charter, the captain handed me a contract and was like, yeah, you're crew now. You've been here for like a month. So,
yeah, that's amazing how it all just worked out like that. As you said, like it sounded like it was all
really
meant to be. The stars were aligned. So did you do much dock walking there, or was it predominantly networking at nighttime or attending functions?
It was predominantly functions and networking.
Mm-hmm.
That was I did, I dock walked later on over here in the Med, but then it was predominantly just networking and going to different events.
Okay, great. So with your wealth of knowledge and experience, what would be your best tip to share to the others who are looking for work at the moment?
For those who are looking for work, it's been a long time since I was a green crew member looking for work, but I'd recommend, doing as much as you can to show that you're serious about the industry and about yourself. Do the courses for junior crew. I mean, there's not much that you can do at this stage, but you can take, if you're looking for a deck position, you can take something like your personal watercraft instructor or your powerboat level 2, maybe even your yacht rating if you do have some kind of sea time. That kind of shows in a way that you're serious, and at the end of the day, you at least get some boating terms knocked out and learned. If you're going to be dock walking, don't be showing up at 10 o'clock. Work starts at 8. You should be on the docks by 7:30. When you're walking up to the boats, it's not just, hey, you have work. It's, strike up a bit of a chat with the person that you see on the dock. Ask to see somebody. Tell them what you're looking for. Tell them what you can do. Things like that. Just be personable.
Yeah. Impressionable. Yeah, exactly right. Those are great tips. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, impressionable. Yeah,
that's perfect. So being in a senior role now, you're a first officer, is that correct?
Yep,
that's your position. So in terms of recruitment, if you were looking to hire crew, what sort of qualities would you be looking for in crew? Going on the notion of being personable and having those interpersonal skills, looking at attributes.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm looking for friendly people who are going to get along with not just me and the people in our department, but the other departments. That's a really hard thing to gauge from a paper CV and even from one interview. But I like to see, like, if I'm hiring, say, a bosun, I'd like to see someone who's at least done a few years on boats, has taken some courses. If you haven't started already yet on, say, your training record book, that you at least know what it is, or you have at least started on it. If it's junior crew, I feel that I can pretty much train people, but what you can't really change are people's personalities and
Mm.
conflict areas, stuff like that. But it's hard. It's hard to I mean, in a way, you're judging people based on what's written on a piece of paper or a quick little meeting.
Mm.
But I don't know. Usually, what I do if I'm hiring, say, a deckhand position, it usually pretty much only works for deckhand. But what I like to do is, say, find 3 or 4 day workers
Mm-hmm.
and hire them for the week. Don't tell any of them that there's a possibility of a job at the end, and then
Mm-hmm.
towards the end, hire one of them.
Mm.
That tends to be what I like to do,
Mm.
because I don't want to tell them there's a job for them at the end of it, because they might be doing things that they don't normally do. I'd
Yeah.
rather kind of see how people are in their element.
Yeah.
Are they showing up late? Are they on their
Mm.
phone the whole time? Are they
Mm.
sneaking around the corner? Are they,
Mm.
in between jobs? Are they not really proactive?
Mm.
So, like, for
Yeah.
example, we just hired a deckhand second stew couple. And that's what we did. We trialed them for a couple days. We originally were going to have them day work for us Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And if we liked them, we were going to offer them the position on Friday.
Mm.
And we pretty much knew straight after Wednesday that, yeah, we were gonna offer them the job.
Mm.
And then on Thursday, we were gonna offer it to them on Friday morning, and then have them tell us by the end of the day. But what we ended up doing was we told them Thursday afternoon, and then we're like, take tonight, sleep on it, discuss it amongst yourselves, and then tell us in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we could tell just by the way that they were working, and
Mm.
um, how they carried themselves,
Mm.
whether or not we'd be happy to offer them the job. And usually you can tell pretty quick.
Yeah, and I like that strategy that you use, because it's a really good way of assessing the quality of work being delivered and how they
Mm-hmm.
relate to each other, like the other crew members. And that comes
Yeah,
with
like,
consistency. So if there's any discrepancies between, I guess, how they present themselves from one day to the next, then that's an indication that there's something not quite right.
yeah. Like, for example, the second stew, just in normal conversation in the morning, the chief stew had said, okay, these are kind of the things that I want to get done for the day. And then the chief and junior had to leave the boat for, like, to go provision. And she had given the second stew, who was day working at the time, had given her, like, just a job to do while she was gone. And she finished it faster than she was expecting, and she just immediately went on to the next thing that was on the list without the chief stew leaving a list or telling her to do that. She just heard the chief stew say that this is something that she wanted to get done today, and just went boom to the next thing.
So it's having foresight, looking at what actually needs to be done instead of being told what to do all the time. It's taking that initiative and executing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, so last question, Dan. Your most memorable moments in the industry. Do you have one, or are there like too many?
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I've been very fortunate in the places that I've got to go. And the places that I've got to go and the people that I got to go there with. I mean, it just happened to work out that me and one of my best friends had the same days off mid-season, and he and I went to Iceland for a couple weeks together. I'll never forget this one time when we were pulling out of I think what's that volcano? I think Santorini, and it was Santorini. Is that right? Can't remember now. It was the right volcano. But it was one of those nights where it was like clear, like such a clear, dark night where you can kind of see the bands of the Milky Way, and the volcano was kicking off. And as we were leaving, the propellers were like churning up some bioluminescence in the water. So you had the stars, you had the lava going down the hill, and you had the blue glow in the water. It was that's a view I don't think I'll ever forget.
That is
but I mean,
awesome.
it's hard, yeah. But out of all those things, it's hard to beat meeting the love of your life on boats. So if it wasn't for yachting, I never would have met my wife. Now, she never worked on boats, but she worked in the yachting industry. And so she worked for Dockwalk for about 8 years. And they'd always sent her to different boat show parties and events and things around the world. And it was back in 2012 when I was on a boat in Italy for the winter, and DocWalk had sent her to Italy to cover the Benetti Yachtmaster. I think that's right. And it just happened to be that she was going to be in the same town that I was in. And we weren't even, we were just friends at the time, but we had met up for dinner, and then we had gone to Florence for the weekend, and that's
So
that was it.
straight from there. That's
Yeah.
great.
So,
I love
no,
Florence.
I mean, we weren't together after that trip, but it definitely laid down the groundwork for when we did see each other again.
I'm
And
sure
then as soon as we saw each other again after that, that was it. It was game over.
And then you set the benchmark high from the start. Nice work. I'm taking you
Yeah,
to Florence.
yeah. Actually, she took me to Florence.
Oh, nice.
So,
Lucky you.
yeah.
That's awesome, Dan. Thank you so much for your time. That's just brilliant.
You're welcome.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.